Hey there, fellowship family. Welcome to your one-stop shop for all things church life. My name is Mark Francis, and I'm once again your host for today. Well, after taking just even a couple of weeks off, we're back at it here with another episode of the Fellowship Family Podcast. And I emphasize the word family today because we're going to highlight some of the things that are going on behind the scenes with our Fellowship Bible Church staff. And I have an awesome couple with me who I've known for many years. And it is Dennis and Yvette McNutt. How are you guys?
Doing good. Hello.
Awesome.
It's our first time in the podcast booth together. Like this. Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, it's exciting. You know, I love to dive deep into what's going on behind the scenes with people's lives. And I chat with you guys kind of periodically, but I don't even know how's life been going. You know, so I want to get a chance to hear from you. But here with this specific episode and some upcoming ones, there's a few adjustments and changes with the FBC staff. And not that it starts with you, Dennis, but you're just the first person who's going to come around here and
caught up into
what's going on.
caught up into the wave of it.
Yeah,
right,
so I'll
right,
leave
sure.
that as just something hanging there for later on in our conversation. But I'll turn to both you guys and just kind of say it's been neat to have you on board here with us. How many years have you been working here at FBC, Dennis?
Yeah, it's been over 4 years now. Started in 2017 when I came on staff.
And position is?
Pastor of student ministry. So
Student
the youth
ministry.
pastor.
Youth pastor.
Youth
Yeah,
pastor.
you're the fun guy.
Yeah. I'm the fun guy. Yeah.
The fun dude who gets to play
Or at least I
games
got
and-
volunteers around me that are fun. You know, yeah.
There you go. Throwing pies in people's faces.
Sure, well, that
you know.
happens. Yeah, raw eggs. You never know what you're getting into with youth ministry.
What is the
always
goofiest
fun
thing that you've seen in the years that you've been here?
The goofiest thing. Well, I think the students will probably be quick to point to my half-face beard.
I do remember that.
You remember that?
I don't know why. What was the challenge behind it?
Yeah, so the students got to vote on. I had grown my beard out for quite a while because I grow my beard out usually every year. I grow it pretty full for Follow the Star because Zachariah and Elizabeth, we are that's our Follow the Star thing. So I always grow my beard out for that, and I had let it go even well beyond that. So my beard was in pretty full. And we were doing a kind of fundraising for a international youth missions conference we were doing. And so as part of raising awareness for that, we did this competition where students got to vote on how I would shave my beard off.
Okay.
Whether it was going to be mutton chops or a goatee or a spiral beard one of the options was a half-face beard. And of course, the students, that was the one that they voted for.
And how long did you have to do that? And I know that you were behind the scenes, I think just almost in tears,
Just shaking my head as always because he grows it long for Follow the Star, but usually the day after Follow the Star ends, he shaves it off nice and clean for me.
Uh-huh.
That didn't happen that year because he was going to raise this money. So I knew it was all for a good cause.
Yes.
But I was not happy.
It is all for a good cause.
Right, yeah. So I had to keep it long enough. Like I had to come to work with it. I had to walk through the mall with it. I had to post a profile picture of my face like that on Facebook. So so it was out there for sure. It's documented.
Go research it, guys.
Right.
If you're watching or listening.
Half a face with a beard and half without it. So.
That's amazing. Well, Yvette, I got to say, I mean, I love your voice. You just said something for good cause.
Yeah.
Where does that accent come from?
From New York.
Okay. What part of New York?
Long Island.
And you have to say
Long
it like that.
Island.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Long Island. Yes.
So then what brought you to this neck of the woods here in Virginia and meeting up with this guy?
Well, my family moved to Florida and he was stationed there.
I was in the Navy and I was stationed in Florida.
Right.
So we met there.
We met on a blind date. And it's been
Blind date.
history
Yeah.
ever
So I was
since.
from Pennsylvania. She's from New York. We met in Florida on a blind date. Well, it wasn't blind for me. It was blind for her. I was behind the scenes.
Made you go blind with her beauty.
Right. I was behind the scenes. A buddy of mine was engaged to a girl that she worked with. And so I was kind of saying, hey, you got to set us up on this blind date with her. And so it wasn't blind for me, but it worked out.
It did. It was love at first sight. And here we are. Almost 30 years later. Well,
What?
29.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many kids do you guys have?
We have 5.
We have 5 kids and 1 son-in-law, so 6 kids.
And a grandbaby
and a
on the
grandbaby
way.
on the way. That's the big exciting
That
thing.
is the big news. See, I knew
Right,
there's something
yeah.
going brewing behind
August
the scenes.
27th, a little baby girl is on her way.
Wow.
We don't know her name yet, but we're looking forward to meeting her. So
You guys aren't old enough for that.
I don't feel old enough.
Yeah.
That's the gray in the beard. Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But,
exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank
Super
you.
exciting. Yeah.
Thank
So we can't wait to. So that's a neat time of life to look forward to that first grandbaby coming.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to kind of get to know what's going on behind the scenes. So I'll
Sure.
transition, setting this up with the conversation that there are some changes happening. So paint a big picture. What's been going on in your all's lives over these last few months or even beyond that's leading you to, okay, there's a change here with your position, your role, and what that looks like.
Yeah. So, I don't even know when to go back to start with.
I would say for me, I just started to feel like just something was happening when we went down to Shenandoah for you to do a sermon down there.
Sure.
And we had had greeted so well. They were so welcoming there, and I just, I was told, I'm praying for you guys to come down here, and so that's all I heard, and I was like, okay, Lord, let your will be done, and we just waited, and that was the first I had it in my mind. But I think for you, it was earlier than that.
Yeah, maybe earlier than that. I think, that with a lot of things when God's moving, it starts with prayer. And so I know that there were people praying for us specifically. And even when the Woodstock church plant was first being even like an idea, it was something that kind of caught my attention as, God, I don't know if this is what, if you have me having any role to do with that, but, I'm open to it if that's what you want, and just being open to God's leading in that. And I with the staff at FBC, like particularly like Don and Patty, like Don really just discipling and pouring into me. And, he kind of had an eye towards that. He was certainly, thinking, was knowing that he was only going to be down there for maybe a year or so.
Right.
And so he was looking toward replacement and really kind of advocating that it might be me, and was praying for that. I know Patty was praying for us in that. And so we started praying about it early on, just that God, you'd make it clear, and that we would be willing to do whatever you're calling to us. We love the ministry we're in, so it's not like we were beating down doors saying, hey, I want this, or, It wasn't anything like that. It was just, God, if this is your leading and your calling, I want to be faithful to that. Absolutely. And we want to be faithful to that. Yeah. And so over the months, it just kind of started to become more and more obvious. We were kind of going down there and with Dawn's, daughter going through the health issues in this last year. And then Dawn and Patty had COVID. So then they were out. And so I was going down there quite a bit to just cover for Dawn. And just more and more every time I'm going down there, having conversations with the people down there, and they would, some of them would say, "Are you going to be the next pastor?" And I'm like, "Well, pray about it. I don't know."
They were lobbying for it.
Right. They were which was nice and very sweet. I mean, they were very, very kind. It's a wonderful group of people down there. They make you feel very, very welcome, and that's what you want to see in a church. And and so it's. It was real special. So it just kind of slowly started to grow, and we were just sitting back waiting on God to see if he would, if it was a God thing. And I think from you'd have to bring in an elder to ask them from their perspective on this. But, over the time, the elders were bringing in different pastors, and they had the job posted on the seminaries' websites, and they were bringing in people to interview, and for whatever reason, it was like God was closing every one of those doors. Like either it was somebody that we felt like was a great fit, but they didn't. So they would pull their name out of the hat, or they would come and they thought they were a great fit, but maybe our elders didn't think, for whatever reason. But just as time was going on, those doors were being shut. And
all the while you're building,
and all the while I'm starting to meet people down there,
right?
And we're covering down there, and and some of the families we have known or crossed paths with in years past, because a number of them are old time FBC people, and some of the faces are just brand new that that you don't know, so you're just kind of trying to meet them, and so it just seems like looking back on it, you can see kind of God's hand kind of leading to this point where I think the elders, said, well, what about Dennis?
Yeah.
Let's talk to
Yeah.
him about. So they did. So
Cool.
the elders asked me to consider that and to pray about it. And so Evie and I started talking about it and praying about it. And, so
It
it's
brought back
fun.
great memories for us too, from when we first came to fellowship and meeting in the where the nursery is now,
A
and
small building.
just
Yeah.
remembering how it was to see people that meet people, new people, and have it just be a size of a smaller congregation, but that excitement that you're in this together, and it's a new a season to be in. I really
Yeah, so there's a lot of excitement.
And I'm
down
hearing
there.
some kind of really cool spiritual truths of just, not my will, but your will be done, kind of is ringing in my
For
head,
sure.
or not I, but Christ through me. There's this idea that, okay, you're happy here doing student ministry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. It's
You
not
like
like I was submitting
the campus here,
applications
you're
or
not
anything. No,
pursuing
I
it.
wasn't
Yeah.
pursuing that. Right.
But yet God is just poking at you in such a way. It's like, okay, there's just opportunity of doing a sermon, and then there's another sermon, and then kind of some visits, and people are receptive,
Right.
and that's neat to see kind of God being the one who's
Yeah,
at the forefront.
right. And that's
in
the
this.
place you want to be, right? Sitting back and just, okay, Lord, even when it's a desire if it's a desire of your heart and it's a strong desire, you got to keep that in check and kind of wait on God and say, okay, God, is this something you want or not?
Mm-hmm.
So it's neat to see God move in those ways. I've the few people I've talked to about it, I use a little illustration. I use the illustration of surfing. Have you ever gone surfing? Are you a surfer? You have. Okay,
I do boogie boarding more.
So you do boogie boarding.
Yeah.
All right. So you and I are on the same level. Like I'm not surfing either, but boogie boarding.
My balance is not great, so surfing I'll crash and burn.
That's a little
pretty
too
quick.
much, right?
Yeah.
So when you get into surfing, right, there's this moment like you're out there in the waves and you kind of jump and try to catch a wave and you miss it, right? The wave goes under you and keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
So you wait for the next one, you hit it, but the wave isn't a good wave, right? It's not breaking just right to. But then there's that moment when you jump in front of that wave and it's the right wave, you timed it just right, and all of a sudden, like the wave starts to take over and you're just on for the ride and you just hang on. You can do some steering, but you're feeling the power of the wave. Yeah. And that's when the adrenaline rush happens, right? That's why surfing's fun, it's for that moment when the wave catches you. And so I've shared this with people just saying like, when God is moving in a very obvious way, that's what it feels like. It feels like, we always know God is always in control. And sometimes in our Christian lives, it's just about being faithful. We're not feeling, you're not seeing that God's moving something. But then once in a while, in times like this, where you're like, oh, okay, God, you're doing all kinds of stuff here. I'm just grabbing onto this surfboard and I'm on for the ride. Like, God, you're moving. And it's an exciting place to be in that. So it kind of feels like that. 4 years ago when I came on staff, that was the feeling I had. Like, oh wow, God, you're doing all this stuff. Like I'm holding on. Right. And you don't always get to feel that in life. Sometimes you're just being faithful in whatever ministry or whatever you're doing in life. And but other times it's like very obvious. God is moving. He's doing something here. And so it's an exciting place to be.
That is an exciting. I love the analogy too. Yeah. You can put that on a bumper sticker. Ride God's wave.
Ride the wave. Yeah, that's right. Ride the wave. Hang on.
So, Yvette, how does that carry into your life? Are you feeling and sensing the wave also? Like where was God kind of taking you along the journey?
I'd have to say, just in contrast to the way I feel now, I can remember years ago thinking when Dennis had brought up going possibly to Pennsylvania to get a job there, and I remember thinking, I don't want to leave here. Like, who would want to leave here? And I remember like thinking of our mission statement, like to prepare and deploy dependent disciples. Yeah. I'm thinking, I don't want to be deployed. I want to stay here. But the way I feel, and anyways, long story short, that we stayed because and I feel like God was just working on my heart, seeing if I was just going to be willing to go. And so I said to Dennis, I'm willing to go wherever you want us to go, and if it's Pennsylvania, so be it. And he didn't take that job. And then how God has opened doors for us here, and then so we just thank God for those opportunities. And then when I see that he's doing something again, it's like, let's go, like.
So he's been preparing you
Right.
along this way to,
Yeah.
I mean, did you think that when you met him that 20, 30, whatever years ago, that it would be a pastor's
No.
wife?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious, you guys have very similar personalities, but different. So in fact, kind of walk me through kind of where do you feel God's leading you in your giftedness to what you might be bringing? Because this will be happening, in the next few months of taking over and being at the Shenandoah County Church. So what do you feel God sensing, or what do you feel you've kind of God leading you in this path of being a wife, being a woman, being somebody who has this kind of leadership kind of skill set to mentor, shepherd? What does that look like for you?
I just see where God has brought us from first coming to FBC and how he has just walked us through different ministries here at Fellowship, that I could see myself doing the same thing in a leadership role in Shenandoah, in that we started out serving in the as greeters.
We were greeters for the preschool.
The preschool, just
That was our
taking
first.
in
That was our first volunteer role at
kids.
FBC. Was greeting in the preschool,
and just getting to know those children, and then we knew the children better than we knew the parents. But then we got involved into a mini church or a community group, and then we were getting to know families, and my children were involved in Kids Zone, and so Kids Zone was a huge part of our ministry here at church. After we served in preschool together in a classroom. So Dennis did the teaching, I did the crafts. It was lovely, and then he got sent to the adults. And so
we did.
There.
Which the downer of that is you don't get the snack time when you're teaching
Right.
the adults.
No
but,
goldfish for you.
Right.
and so and while he was leading then up in Learning Center, I was definitely helping in the Kids Zone ministry with Karen and just the group of parents that are helping out with the worship. And that's been definitely something that God has used in my life in many areas, not just here, but just to the songs, and like being a part of VBSs and Sunday mornings, and that worship time with the children has really been where my heart is. And
That's neat.
And that's the third, not third, that's kindergarten through 5th grade.
Yep. And for a church of just that size down there at Shenandoah County, they're growing.
Yeah.
And to have families and to have a smiling face who can work with the kids and impact the next generation, as we've heard our children's ministry here promote, that's going to be cool. That's
Sure.
neat.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Dennis, how about you? I mean, for those of us who are not fully engaged in the youth and student ministry and don't really see what goes on behind the scenes,
Sure.
You've been preaching every now and then, filling in for Mark sometimes in the pulpit, but this is now going to be every week, week in, week out for you.
Yeah.
What is this going to, kind of talk to me about that world?
Right.
for you
That's the
and
biggest. That'll be the
changes.
biggest change. Is that the pulpit ministry is definitely different than teaching in the classes, and so the week in, week out, like that's a big change. That's why I pray for Mark. Pray for these guys to do it, because it's a lot of work. The study, the preparation, the just being in that place and that mindset, and and pulling that together. It's so when you fill in, when Mark has had me fill in for a 1 or 2 week thing, like, okay, I can do that. And I put all this hours of work into it, and then I do 1 or 2 and then I'm done. Right.
Yeah.
I can breathe a sigh of relief and give it back to Mark. So that'll be definitely a change now going to the pulpit ministry. But I mean, working with the youth it's definitely different. Like, it's a lot of work too, but it's and very rewarding, and it's just in a very different way. Still doing a lot of teaching and, working with student leaders and the ministry teams and teaching large groups and planning events. And in many ways, a youth group is it's a church in and of itself.
Yeah.
Right. The youth group has its own identity. It has, it has Sunday school classes. It has community. It has small groups. It has a worship ministry. We have a missions team on our youth group. We've got service project teams.
I love how you have the variety of teams.
Right.
To
So
allow all the kids.
all
to
the
find
kids
their
are
gifts and
finding
talents and
ways,
find
right,
ways to get plugged in.
to be plugged in and to learn to minister. And so like everything that big church does, like we're doing in the youth group. And some of it's more age appropriate. Not everybody can drive and not everybody has cell phones, and so you've gotta modify it in that sense. But in many ways, the youth group is, it's a full-time church. And the interesting thing, our youth group here is actually bigger than Shenandoah is right now as a church. There's 150 kids in our youth group, and, doing different ministries and involved in all these different ways. And, you're meeting with them, you're teaching, you're, doing large group lessons, you're planning events. And, so.
I was going to say, and you have a games team, a ministry that they just plan games.
Yeah,
you
playing
could keep
games.
that in Shenandoah, right?
Right. We got to find out. We got to talk to somebody down there about having a games team and snacks. Right. So, youth group. You do. You'd probably do some things that are sillier, like the half-faced beard. I don't think probably. I better talk to them down there about that. Maybe I don't know if they'll end up making me do that.
I just had lunch with a couple down there this past week, and they're amazing. He's part of the leadership team, and they were telling me some really exciting things that are going on down at that church. Yeah. And they're open to change.
Right.
And so he was just saying, we want God's leading, but you know what? If we don't want to get caught in tradition, and if we need to do something different, so if we need to have a half-shaved pastor for a week to get some attention,
hey, I'm on board. Yeah. Let's do it.
Be creative.
Yeah, I'm excited too. They are, and that's the sense I've gotten from the people down there that I've met with. Like they've got a heart for that community, and so what do we want? How is God going to shape that body of believers to impact that community for Christ? And so really being open to what it looks like, and being willing to try some things, and let's do this together. And they're working on developing that leadership team to really be an elder-led church, and all the things that we feel are important as a church.
Yeah, self-sustaining.
Yeah, self-sustaining, supporting, and so there, there's those kind of biblical elements that we feel are important to the church. But man, there's a lot of creativity then that can come into what does it look like? Yep. What do the forms look like, and how you do it? And
again, so, like you said, the heart for that community. And have a Bible teaching church that week in, week out is digging into God's word, that community can say, hey, come, join me.
Right.
Let's go to church together.
Yeah,
it's only 10 minutes away.
Yeah. So it's an exciting thing. It's fun to just to think about, all right, where's this church? Where's God taking it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we going to get to watch and see as God's wave kind of carries this whole church on this surfboard? Where are we going?
And I love the building blocks that it's been years in the making of God leading to bring us this point to this church, to COVID happening, to still launching it,
still in the midst of that,
to then having the Den Hartogs there to really lay a foundation, him pouring into the lives of some of the leaders.
Man, look at it from a standpoint of, I can't even begin to say how awesome it is, like how grateful I am personally to this. Like, if you're going to be a first-time pastor of a church like that, you couldn't ask for a better situation with the mentoring, the discipling that's going on, the support of a staff that is pouring into that church and building it up. Somebody like Don down there to lay that foundation, and all the work that Scott Santmeyer has put into it, and John Van Drunen, and just really seeking to establish this church well. You're
on your own, but yet you have a support system of children's ministry, worship ministry, counseling, biblical education, students. You go down the list.
You're not. It's not like I'm off. Coming out of seminary and I'm just randomly in some church plant somewhere on my own trying to figure it out. Yeah. If it was that, personally, I don't think I would be the guy. Yeah. But with the situation the way it is, with the support, being, and still right now under the leadership of the FBC elders until that point where they can be self-sustaining. You just couldn't ask for a better situation. It speaks to FBC's vision of preparing and deploying dependent disciples, and I just. And both of us feel like we are the in a way a poster child of that.
Preparing, deploying,
right? Because we came here.
I'm just laughing only because as we're being changed by Him, it's all in His timing and His grace.
Because when we started coming here, I mean, we were, you wouldn't have ever thought 20 years from now that they'd be pastoring the church, right? And we started off volunteering, greeting in the preschool and then teaching in the preschool and then teaching more. But this mindset of preparing and raising up leaders within the church and then giving them opportunities to lead and calling them to that. I just really appreciate our elders and that heart because, you look at the staff. I mean, you just look at the staff at FBC and how many have been raised from within. That we haven't done a lot of hiring. Right. I mean, we've done some over the years, and it's not that they wouldn't do that, but you go down the list of different ones that have been look at my replacement, Caleb Pearson, who grew up in this church, came through our mentoring program to be discipled, came on staff part-time to start working in a youth group, and then full-time, and now we're going to be heading up a youth ministry.
Yeah, so let's talk about that real quick, because I'm going to bring on more people in the episodes to come. Sure. Yeah. So then Hard Togs are leaving. Their last day.
So they're officially till the end of August.
End of August.
Right, and then I'm officially September 1st.
Is when you'll be kind of the first.
Right. I mean, obviously we have between now and then as a transition period. Mm-hmm. But so officially Don is leaving the end of August and I start September 1st.
And then you just mentioned Caleb Pearson. So the hole that you're leaving is being filled in capable shoes.
Right, which is another picture back to our mission statement as a church, preparing and deploying. A kid that grew up in this youth group, grew up in our church, went off to college, came back, goes through the mentorship, like I said. And so it's I don't know. It's neat to see that. I mean, you go way back even to like a Rich Burrito who came on staff as he didn't come out of seminary to do that. Like he was a leader that was raised up within the church, and other staff people. John Van Drunen himself, right, raised up within the church. Jim Poole. You just kind of go down through this list of it's
and
great.
It's great. Neat to see how and. We're not leaving. There's no turnover of people coming and going to other churches or leaving town. And there's some sort of Holy Spirit-led unity that is here. And having the Spirit lead you guys to Shenandoah County, having the Holy Spirit lead the elders to plant a church in Shenandoah County is all in His timing.
Right.
And you got to love that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I get a little choked up on the thought of these, like that season with Don just being over here. I know that he'll be back and we'll get to see him every now and then, but for us that played a huge part, him being here. And you can name people that have contributed to our growth and
Mark Carey,
to make
all of them.
So I don't want to think too much about it because then I need tissues. But I am real appreciative of the people that God has put in our lives.
And to all the people watching and listening, you could be one of them. You could be the next. Who are you pouring into yourself and who is pouring into you? So you have that mentor, that shepherd, and then you have that person that you're passing on to. So there's this entire domino effect or whatever wave imagery you want to
you go back for us, like we go back, we could share the story of like Debbie Walther back in the day. I mean, 20 years ago, and she was leading the preschool thing. She was the one that came to us, here we are, this young couple with a couple young kids saying, hey, would you mind? Like, we need somebody to greet. Like, coming in, like we didn't go asking to volunteer.
We were
like
the last ones in,
we were always late
because we were late.
but she asked us to volunteer, and so then that started to connect us in, and then a couple that I don't even remember their names because they moved like a month after this to Florida. The Smiths, I think. I don't know. But they invited us to be a part of this community group, so we go and be part, and we met the Annibals, and we met all these other people that were part of that. The Snellgroves that were part of this small group. And, just because we sat next to this couple in a learning center class and they invited us to be a part of our small group, and then they ended up moving to Florida. So we never got to know them.
Yeah.
But then you get connected into this group that just pours into your life and shapes you over the years that God uses.
And that's your model. And taking that to Shenandoah County.
Right.
How
wonderful women's ministry, wonderful men's groups. I mean, really great ways that we can take that with us to the next place.
That's awesome. Well, just last thought, how can we as a church pray for you guys when you're heading in that direction?
Well, I would just ask for wisdom, just that that wisdom on what when you want to do everything and you can't do it all at once, and just to have that discernment and just to see how to do things,
or what to do or what not to do.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just pray for that church down there. You know, it is a young church still, and raising up leaders, and you know, that for us, I mean, just personally, I mean, obviously there's things that God has to work out. You know, there's details, there's logistics, there's, you know, what to do at the house, what to do with all these kind of things. So be praying for all of those logistical things. Like, we've seen enough of the faithfulness of God. I mean, especially going back 4 years ago when we came on staff, like,
Right.
So we're not worried about it. Like, we know God is like, God has got it under control. And so we're just, you know, trusting God and praying about those kind of things. But like Evie said, just as we take on, this is new for us, and it just for wisdom, and for us to be able to step into that and to be a part of that fellowship. Like, it's exciting. It's nervous too, like to be the senior pastor type of role. Like I try not, you know, that's, if you just think about that, then it gets nervous, and you say, well, okay, well, God, you're calling me to this for some reason, you know, and so I'm trusting that, all right, God, you're, you know, God's got this. And my phone's ringing. Sorry.
That's all right. That's a great way to end it, though, too. God's got this.
Right. God's got this.
That's who you're putting your hope and trust in. And it's neat to see you guys and thank you for sharing your stories and being able to be a part of this conversation where those that are watching and listening can be blessed and encouraged by hearing where God is leading you to where any one of us, God could be leading us to something, or in the middle of it right now, or maybe we don't even know.
And sometimes you just got to be willing and open to whatever door God may open for you.
Absolutely. Not my will, but yours be done.
Right.
And so thank you guys. And I'm excited to hear what's going to be happening in the future. And as we're listening and watching, we will be hearing from some other people in the staff that we've already mentioned today.
Yeah, some other
that are
movements.
Part of these changes.
Right.
Get a chance to hear some of the behind the scenes stories of what God is doing in their lives. So thanks for being a part of the podcast. You can definitely continue to watch us or listen to us anywhere on those different channels, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Playlists, wherever you get your podcast from. And until we do meet and chat again, let's let Christ be the focus of our lives each and every day.
Amen.